give that to you.
Yeah, it just shows you as the host.
Yep.
Oh, there.
Now co-host.
Now I can
let everybody in.
Admit all.
Yep. And then just watch it because they'll start popping in here. Good morning, everybody. This is Randy Welsh, the Executive Director for the National Wilderness Stewardship Alliance, welcoming you to day 3 of the National Wilderness Workshop. We're so thankful that you came back, decided to join us this bright and early, 8 o'clock Pacific time, and 11 o'clock Eastern time, and everything else in between. You know, this morning, we wanted to just spend a little time unpacking a couple of things. First, we wanted to get some feedback from folks that got up this early to talk to us. We'll do kind of a free-form round robin. There's not as many as we need to worry about. Just if you've got something you'd like to say, raise your hand. We'll get you recognized, and then you can share your thoughts. And then we get a few more people in the room. We want to unpack the 2 questions that we asked in our little survey over the evening. And if you haven't yet taken that survey, I'll have the line up here in a minute. You can go and do that to have your thoughts included as well, or it's in your inbox with the link to the Survey Monkey. And the 2 questions basically are, what are the biggest challenges to your, what are the biggest challenges that your organization faces? And then what do you think are the biggest challenges to the National Wilderness Preservation System? You can go to the Survey Monkey link. It should be in your inbox, or you can just type it in your browser. It'll take you right there. And 2 questions, list of responses. It won't take you very long to do that. You can do it on the side while we're hearing from folks. So if you guys would do that, that would help us carry forward into the presentation or into the discussion this morning. But in the meantime, how about we get a few comments from our audience as to how you think we're doing so far. What have been your highlights? What have been your things that you've taken away from the session so far that you'd like to share with the audience here? So just go ahead and raise your hand and we'll call on you. And let's get some dialogue going this morning for the first 10 or 15 minutes. Is it too early? Has nobody had enough coffee yet this morning? Just raise your hand. We'll find you, call on you. I'd like to share your thoughts about what you've gained from the workshop so far.
Peter Irvin's back. Repeat.
All right, Pete. Go right ahead, Pete. You're never shy and bashful.
Well, you know, it's wonderful what a little thing like retirement can do to your tongue. Hey, good morning, everybody. I'd just like to say thanks, Randy, for letting us, for working some magic and getting it to where we have the option to look at our fellow participants and see who else is with us. Don't think I'm the only one who enjoys knowing who else is in the session. So appreciate you working on that and looking forward to another great day. Thanks.
All right. Can you see that now? Did it work?
Yeah, it sure did. Well, I'll turn my video off and everybody looks better now. But yeah,
Okay.
got a participant button and got the ability to scroll across the bottom of my tablet and see the other folks in the session. And yeah, to me, that's a good thing. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, it will certainly work in the meetings. I'm not sure if it'll work in the webinars, but we'll see. Sandy Scrine, you've got your hand up.
Good morning, everybody. Yeah, I really liked yesterday. My two favorite sessions were the one on wilderness science and research. I really appreciated hearing all of those presentations in the research section because I don't know, it's interesting. It's something I've never done myself, but it's sort of fascinating to me. Thought it was really good information and good information for people to draw on or connect with. And it's exciting to see the new folks that are at Leopold helping out with that research. And then I also really liked the stories from Wild Wyoming and the Friends of Scotchman Peak and Oregon Natural Desert Association presentations. I thought they all gave some great, great information. I took a lot of notes. They shared some examples of how they operate, what's important to them, and how they engage with their constituents, their supporters, their communities. It was also interesting to me what a wide range of projects different organizations work on. So I really enjoyed those two sessions. Have a great day, everybody.
All right, thanks, Sandy. Yeah, if you'd like to share your thoughts, just raise your hand. We'll call on you. And don't be shy and bashful. This is an opportunity to meet and greet other people who are here at the National Wilderness Workshop. And while you guys are waiting to get your courage up to talk in front of the audience, I will note that we had some difficulty yesterday with some of the polls. And Diane, I think, mentioned to me that it has to do with running the latest or current version of Zoom. If you haven't updated your Zoom client to the latest version, you may not be able to participate or see some of the polls. I think that's probably the easiest fix that we know of as to why some people were seeing the polls and others were not. But you need to be running the latest version of the Zoom client. So if you haven't upgraded or updated the Zoom client, you might want to consider doing that during one of the breaks or step off quickly and go do that and then come on back. I know we'll have some polls tomorrow, and we may end up with a couple of polls later today as well. So anybody else like to just share your thoughts about the session so far, what's been meaningful to you, or just a shout out to other folks in the audience? Just raise your hand, we'll recognize you. All right, Stevie.
I'm always good.
Unmute.
I'm always happy to chat. I really enjoyed yesterday just seeing what other organizations are doing and how similar some of the programs are, but then how different they are and how can the program I oversee learn from those opportunities. And then I think the individuals towards the end of the day were really great. There was just great reminders of how important it is to not just befriend those in politics when you need something, but how important it is to build those relationships even when you don't have an ask. And although most of us probably know that, it's just nice to hear those reminders. And then to see how human they are as well. Those in the political arena, just, you know, the mistakes they make, and you just know that that's just part of being human and part of life. So yeah, so far it's been just some really great reminders and great ways to learn about other programs.
All right, well, thank you for sharing that, Stevie. Anybody else like to share anything from the first 2 days? Well, this will be an awkward coffee hour if we just kind of stare at each other across the screen. Tara, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. So yeah, I definitely have enjoyed the last couple of days. This is my first wilderness workshop. So I've been learning a lot, and I definitely found it most interesting how these other organizations are operating differently than ours, some similarities and some differences. And I'm definitely hoping to take some of that away and kind of implement some of it into our trail program. Our trail program is mainly professional trail crews. And I definitely find it interesting how you can get some volunteers out, not necessarily having big group stewardship projects, but have like the individual citizen scientist aspect of everything. So I definitely appreciate everything that everyone's been chatting about, and I'm learning a ton. So thanks for that.
Great, glad you could join us. Just a reminder for those folks that are joining in now, there is a survey, monkey survey, that's ongoing. You can see the link at the bottom of the screen. We're going to get to these two questions here in just a minute. But what are the biggest challenges that your organization faces? What are the biggest challenges faced by the National Wilderness Preservation System? Go to the Survey Monkey, take a quick survey. We'll have the results here in a few minutes for those that participate. In the meantime, we've got time for a couple more comments. People would like to share what their experience has been the last 2 days. You know, the first day we had a few technical difficulties, but hopefully that got ironed out yesterday. Kurt from Nevada.
Hey,
how you doing, buddy?
I'm doing good, man. Good to see everyone. Yeah, you know, I think it's great. I enjoyed all the presentations. Not all of them, you know, kind of fit what we were doing, but overall, it's exciting to see what everyone's doing. I really love the advocacy piece. I thought that was great. My favorite presentation out of all of them were probably the two young women from Wyoming. I thought I was really engaged, and they had so much enthusiasm. They just kind of drew you in with that. So I also want to announce that I've got 42 days left till I retire. So I'm actually keeping a list of all the places I want to go and all the groups I want to volunteer for. So you know, this is kind of like a virtual travel brochure for me. So I'm enjoying that. And the two challenges that face us for our organization, but more on the big stage of Nevada, would be non-native ungulates. And we know what those are. You know, the cattle are destroying the trails. Sometimes we get out there, you know, the GPS says we're on the trail. There's 5 different routes. It's, you know, it's really a mess with that, and down fences and all sorts of issues with that. And also with the horses, poor Nevada is just overloaded with horses, and I see no real end in sight. The opposition has totally out-organized us. You know, they've got Willie Nelson and Lacey J. Dalton and all these stars on their side, and we come forward with science, and it just doesn't work. So if sometime in the future, if we could develop a campaign to promote science and what it's doing to wildlife and what it's doing to the range, and in fact, how inhumane it is to keep that amount of horses on the range as well. So anyway, that's kind of where I'm at. And just to let you know, Tara is awesome. She's taken over for me. So the Nevada trails will be as good as ever. So anyway, thanks a lot. I really appreciate the chance to chat with you folks.
All right, thanks, Kurt. Just
Kurt, you have
people to. Oh, go
Kurt,
ahead.
you got a personal invitation from Kim with Wild Alabama.
I saw that. Yeah, you know, I'd like to make a trip through the South, so I'm going to add that to my list. I might put that one to the top because that's a real invite.
And I'll just
mention, I got another one too. Great. I should give everybody my email, Kurt@NevadaWilderness.org. Keep them coming. All right,
And
I'll get off my soapbox here and let you guys chat.
I'll just mention, as someone from Southwest Oregon who gets out in Nevada quite a bit, the Friends of Nevada do incredible work. But what Kurt's referring to are wild horses that are quite a hot button issue out there. So if you're interested to learn more, that's what you need to look for, is the wild horses in Nevada and Southeast Oregon.
Yeah, and you can definitely enhance your Zoom experience by monitoring the chat and watching people as they comment back and forth. It's always enlightening and entertaining. So still got time for a couple more comments. People would like to share any feedback for us. Even if we're doing something wrong and you want to get it off your chest, go ahead and let us know. But any feedback before I move to a different topic?
Jesse's hands up.
Shannon, there is no passcode. Not a passcode. You should just be able to use the meeting link, the link that was sent.
Okay, thanks. I had somebody just trying to log in through the browser rather than Zoom on desktop, and he's getting an error message. Then it says it needs a passcode.
Oh. Okay, yeah, if you did use the Zoom link, that would be the right way to go in. I'd have to look up the passcode. I'm not sure what that is, but I know we have one, but I'm not sure what it is for today.
Okay,
Jesse,
thanks.
go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm an assistant professor at one of the California State University schools. And one thing that I really appreciated from yesterday was Nathan's presentation as part of the future directions of wilderness research. And implicit in his presentation was that part of visitor use management is also understanding the managers and understanding how they perceive of policy and different things, and how that could potentially influence the management of visitors, right? So thinking about these VUM, not frameworks, but the research itself, I really enjoyed hearing Nathan's perspective there. And I think that, again, to kind of really understand visitor use management, implicit in that is management, and with management is an understanding of managers and the context that they work in. And I'm really excited for this coffee hour, because I think part of it is going to engage with that and also nonprofit perspectives as well. So I really valued that. So less of feedback and more of really valuing that presentation, that whole hour yesterday. I think that was yesterday.
All right, great. And if somebody does need that passcode, it's 912038. 912038 should get them into the session if they use it. Thank you, Jesse. Lockin, you're got your hand up.
Yeah, hi. While I enjoyed all of the presentations, I felt like one of my takeaways from yesterday was from Renee Patrick's presentation, because I felt like since she'd learned about the mapping tool from a previous wilderness workshop and then had implemented it for her own organization, it felt like kind of a full circle. I kind of felt the synergy of what the workshop is really about, and that you can, pick up tips and tools and then use them, and then they're just always evolving and growing. So I felt the synergy of the workshop based on that kind of presentation. So
all right, thanks for sharing that, Lockin. That's certainly one of the reasons we put these workshops on, is to bring people together, to share ideas, share techniques, have better understanding, make connections and network, so that we can all learn from each other. We're one big community, and it really requires all of us to work together to be able to be successful. So, okay. All right, people are able to make their way in. Well, I'm going to go ahead and stop the screen sharing and that link there. You've got that link in your email if you'd like to do that. Take the survey, and I'm going to go see the results. Let's see. In a minute, I will go back to where the results are. Here we go. Okay, so we're up to 56 responses so far. So take the results with a grain of salt, or with the understanding that there's 55 people responding so far, and we'll take and continue to have the survey active through the next couple of days of the workshop, and I will take and respond. I will take and send a note out with the final tallies as well as the full written descriptions of the questions. But just basically from the survey responses we have now, it looks like the backlog trail maintenance, the funding competition for funding, the inability to reach younger people, and bureaucracy and the obstacles there are some of the main issues that organizations are challenged by. How does that ring with you guys? How do you respond to this? Does that ring true to you? Do you have some other thoughts about these particular challenges? What do you think is the biggest challenge that your organization faces, and what are you doing about it that you'd like to share? Raise your hand. And, see, I'm going to try a different view because that's no, that's not what I need. I'm going to go down below because you can see the full write-up, the number of responses. Note that there are 20 some odd individual responses, and I'll capture those and send them out as part of the final listing, just so you can get a sense of what people thought was missing from the list that would add to the conversation. But I'll go ahead and make sure that those are included. But what do you guys think? What resonates with you in terms of your own organization as to one of these challenges, and what are you doing about it? No, it's early. There we go. Go ahead, Nicole.
Hi, so I'm with Friends of Nevada Wilderness down in Las Vegas, and something that we've kind of been talking about in our office and with a couple of our partners is just trying to reach a more diverse group of people, trying to kind of make connections and work with some of the other groups, and just really thinking about how we can make people feel comfortable as far as coming out and doing some of the work, even people just as far as their skill sets. You know, you can hear the phrase that we're doing trail work, and that can seem super overwhelming if you've never done it before. Trying to reach out and work with a couple of the groups that tend to be a little bit more underrepresented. And we're sort of just like getting started on it, looking for good ideas. So if anybody has any experience, anything that's worked with them, I'd love to hear it too. But that's definitely been something that we're kind of focusing on these days.
Anybody else? Share your thoughts.
We got a couple other hands up, Randy.
Okay, Tara.
Yeah, I guess I'll definitely second what Nicole said. We are also dealing with that up here in Northern Nevada, but we also have some different issues than Southern Nevada. And I think the one that we deal with the most maybe in the trail program is the backlog of trail maintenance. We see it all the time when we send our crews out. We get out in the field and things are just overwhelmingly unmaintained, and we have 2 crews per season. There's another organization in Nevada that does trail work, but we're the main one for the wilderness areas, and the forest doesn't really have any trail crews for that either, other than a couple wilderness areas have a wilderness ranger that goes out, clears some trees. So we're definitely dealing with that challenge of being able to keep up with all the overgrown trails that we've got here, and having enough funding to get more crews out there has been a big challenge too.
All right, great. Stevie.
Stevie from Idaho Conservation League. So I agree with Nicole. Diversifying our group is difficult. Idaho is rather homogenous when you look at race and political affiliation and economics. It's very, there's not very many changes in it. And so identifying groups within our communities that are closer to the wilderness areas that we work in, that's very difficult. And then there are a lot of BIPOC community members in the cities, but then you're looking at access issues as well. And another issue is finding younger folks to get out there that can push themselves a little bit harder. And again, I think that comes with where the wilderness areas are located and where you see more diverse or more younger folks, whether it's adolescents or those in their 20s. I think most of those individuals are in the cities, and so you're looking at a few-hour drive to get them to the wilderness areas. So I would definitely say diversifying our volunteer base, at least for the wilderness program, is a little difficult at this time.
All right, thank you. Let's see, Stevie, you had your hand. Oh, yes, who you are. Thank you. Locken back on board. And I guess there's people who are having trouble accessing today the passcode issue, and Zoom must have done an update to their client because people are having issues getting into the new client. But go ahead, Locken.
Thanks. The issue of getting younger and diverse groups involved in wilderness reminded me of an issue that came up in one of yesterday's presentations about the time commitment to some of the volunteer projects, that even like the 4 hours seemed hard for some people. And I know that some volunteer groups require like year-long commitments or season-long commitments, or you're out there twice a month making contacts with visitors. But I think if organizations could find some more kind of like one-off projects or family-oriented projects that were geared towards people on weekends, that's like not during soccer season or something like that, just catering to that particular audience where you're finding those young people, and finding those like smaller time commitments or one-time time commitments, you might find a different volunteer population for some of those other projects. Maybe it's a different kind of investment, right? You're investing a lot of energy in people who might only volunteer once or twice a year. But I think over the long term, that could grow a more diverse and younger population of wilderness stewards.
That's a great point, Lachlan. Thank you. And is it Jacqueline?
Yeah, Jacqueline. I'm Jacqueline. I'm from University of Montana. I'm a PhD student focusing on diversity, equity, and inclusion in wilderness. And yeah, this is a common problem that I've seen in my research. in many different capacities. And one of the things that I have been exploring in my work is looking at partnerships with social media groups. So groups like Outdoor Afro, groups like Latino Outdoors. I know agencies like the Forest Service are starting to formalize partnerships with these groups. A lot of these groups are either local. So for instance, I'm coming in from Missoula, Montana. We have an organization here called Here Montana that the Bob Marshall Wilderness Foundation partnered with last summer to bring a group of volunteers out. And then some of these organizations, like the two I mentioned, Afro Outdoors or Outdoor Afro and Latino Outdoors, are national with local chapters. So you could look to see if there is a chapter that is close to where you are. And a lot of those groups have external or their own funding and might be interested in having a facilitated wilderness outing, volunteer opportunity in partnership with an organization that they could also contribute to transportation and funding for. So if anybody has any further questions about any of that, please feel free to reach out to me.
All right, thank you, Jacqueline. Stephen.
Hello. I work for the Society of Wilderness Stewardship, and I'm focusing on doing the wilderness character monitoring baselines. And I did the same work with SALS last year as well. So I see a number of challenges in different forests that are pretty much across the board for wilderness. And you know, one of the biggest things that I see is the lack of funding for research outside of recreation. And so I'm hoping that by doing all these WCM the baseline assessments that and doing the trend analysis, they'll show that we need a lot of funding for other projects like monitoring invasive species. And someone even mentioned the situation with ungulates, range management, and how much that brings in, and especially aquatic monitoring. And so the baselines just really bring to the forefront the huge amount of benefits that wilderness has. And so I'm hoping these baselines really bring to the forefront that and can highlight many of the challenges across the board and bring in more funding and solidify funding and the importance of funding for the programs across the forest.
All right, thank you, Stephen. All right, well, you've noticed that I changed the screen and went to our second question, which what do you think are the biggest challenges to the National Wilderness Preservation System? And while not an exhaustive list, certainly gives us some food to chew on, something to chew on. Take a look at these results and let's get some feedback going, some discussion about why you think some of these items are the biggest challenges and how they might be affecting you in your particular area. Looks like increased user numbers is at the top of everybody's list, and the associated impact of human use. Big surge in recreation use in wilderness with the COVID pandemic seems to be universal across the country. And then effects of climate change and then lack of agency funding for wilderness stewardship also are really high on that list. And then the lack of political interest or opposition to wilderness designation and stewardship also seems to be high. So how do these affect you in your particular area? What's the biggest challenge your area faces and why? And what sort of actions are you taking to handle it or to address that challenge in your area? Let's open the line. Raise your hand. We'll give you a chance to share your challenges. Renee.
Hi, yes, definitely climate change, and hand in hand with that is wildfire. So as I mentioned in my presentation yesterday, we had almost 3 months last summer where it was too hot, or fire danger was too high, or the smoke effects were severely impacting like the time that we would do stewardship and do some of these restoration projects. So like, just we're asking ourselves, is this the new normal? How do we plan for a significant chunk of the year with something that, you know, could this be a yearly thing? It's last 2 years in Oregon has had immense wildfires. And so, yeah, that's definitely kind of underpinning a lot of our thinking and how we plan. I don't have any answers for how to plan around that, just that to keep that in mind with everything we do.
All right, who else would like to share? Sarah.
Yeah, Renee, that was a really good point. We've dealt with a lot of the smoke. Luckily not the actual fires, but the smoke coming in from California and up in Oregon, over in Nevada. And we're stumped. We're trying to figure out how to come up with protocols for sending people out in the field. And a lot of the places don't have air quality meters where we work. So we don't actually know what the air quality is and what would be safe, or where we just wear an N95 and work through it, or if we should just call it. So if anyone else is struggling with this and has ideas, we're definitely looking for those. So definitely reach out if you've got any sort of protocol or that you'd be willing to share. Thanks.
All right, Ian.
Yeah, this building on the smoke. We've had a lot of those conversations on the Pacific Crest Trail in all 3 states and how we plan for it, which is such a challenge given the uncertainty of when fires will or will not come up. But specific to the AQIs, I mean, we have had some core crew partners try the little handheld AQI meters with limited success to date, and they're not inexpensive, but when it comes to folks' health in the backcountry, it is a tool that can be used to at least get a sense for what the AQI might be like on a given day. So.
All right, Kurt.
Hi. Yeah, just a quick comment on the smoke. It was really rough this year. And I went online, and we were working in Jarbidge, which is close to the Idaho border in northeast Nevada. And I could get readings from Twin Falls, and I could get them from Elko, but I couldn't get anything even close to where the crew was. And that made it really challenging. You know, we watched the smoke map and things like that, but yeah, the leaders really struggled with that. So a handheld meter maybe, or, you know, the trail crew, they're pretty gung-ho and no one would say no. So, you know, leader, you guys want to continue? And they'd say yes. So yeah, definitely as climate change, you know, we continue to deal with it, would definitely be, you know, something we should look at. And then just a comment, because I'm in Nevada again, and this is a little unique to the state, is competing uses with the military. The United States Air Force has the largest training facility of its kind for air combat and air missions in Nevada. It's huge. The entire airspace, if you combine it with California and Arizona, where they roam and do their thing, is larger than North Korea, but yet they want more. So we were faced with this challenge. It almost seemed certain that the Air Force was going to get it. But our folks in Southern Nevada, who really deserve a shout out, the whole team down there, they rallied grassroots folks, and a lot of folks they got from stewardship, a lot of on the ground trips with, you know, county commissioners at first, and then Congress folks, and then we finally got our senior senator out there, and, you know, working with national groups. And, you know, we did not say no, and we got a bit of a moratorium on that, but, you know, the Air Force is not going to give up. So we still have that challenge. And then in the northern part of the state, the Navy wants to actually have some wilderness study area released so they can do some of the on-the-ground training there as well with Top Gun. I'm sure we're all familiar with that. But, you know, just if that happens to you, just don't say no, you know, organize. All those folks that go on your stewardship trips, man, they're the people to contact, because, you know, when you've gone out there and you've gotten dirty and, you know, you've gotten sweaty, you take ownership of it, and they make great advocates for that. So yeah, it's definitely another challenge we have in Nevada. And actually my boss, who Randy knows, is in DC right now, getting an award from the Fish and Wildlife Service for her advocacy on working on the desert refuge. So, you know, but I know my boss, she knows who really did the heavy lifting. It was all those volunteers. So anyway, I just thought I'd give a shout out. I don't know how many other folks are in the situation with the Navy wanting to gobble up our public lands, but man, it's, you know, it's hard to go against the military. So anyway, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Kurt. So just the survey will be active through the rest of the workshop. So be sure to take a chance, if you haven't yet done it, to answer these 2 questions. I'll assemble a list and send it out to everybody at the end of the workshop. And we can see what we can do in terms of getting some synergy built around maybe trying to address some of the bigger issues together as a community. All right, well, you know, in our agenda, I had mentioned that we had a special guest here with us today. And so I'd like to reintroduce Katie Armstrong, the new Forest Service Director for Wilderness and Wild and Scenic Rivers. She's joined us this morning. So Katie, you want to come on in and talk a little bit more about your new role as the Wilderness Director for the Forest Service?
Sure. Thanks, Randy. And can you all hear me all right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I joined on the fly on my phone, so wasn't quite sure, but really appreciate the opportunity to, you know, introduce myself. I am hoping to get to know all of you better and the work that you're engaged in. I'm on week 2 of being in this position, so I'm still very much in learning and listening mode, and being able to hear what you all just shared was tremendously valuable. So I really appreciate that. You know, I certainly agree that, you know, the challenges that we're facing with climate change, wildfire, you know, they're pretty daunting, but I think that the expertise and the passion in this community, you know, we'll figure it out. So I guess, you know, like I said, I'm in learning mode. I come to this position from, I was previously the acting chief of staff for the Forest Service for nearly a year. And prior to that, a number of different positions in the agency. I started off back in 2003 with the Forest Service as a natural resource specialist working on the emerald ash borer. So I've had a lot of good experiences in the agency. Something that I'm personally really passionate about is, you know, connecting underserved communities with, you know, the national forest system, with wilderness more broadly. And I am looking forward to, in this position, putting some good effort into that work. So with that, Randy, I'll turn it back to you. And if there are any specific questions, or if people want to reach out to me offline and spend time together, I'm very welcome to that.
Well, Katie, you got to know that from the wilderness community, we're very thankful that the Forest Service saw the wisdom in rehiring the Wilderness and Wild and Scenic Rivers Director. Could you tell us a little bit about the status of that consolidation effort? Is it done now that you're hired, or are you still working on ways to integrate with the recreation program? What do you see the future for your position?
Yeah, thanks for that question, Randy. And there may be folks on the call who aren't familiar with the history there. There was some sort of moves in the past looking at combining the work of the Wilderness and Wild and Scenic Rivers staff, kind of bringing that into the larger recreation umbrella. And I know that there were some, I'd say, strong reactions to that approach. And it's something that, we're still looking at, how to better integrate our work. No decisions have been finalized on how they plan to move forward on that. And, me new coming into the position, I'm really trying to learn more about the history and the thinking that was behind it in the first place, and, see what makes sense. But yeah, no decisions have been made. I can tell you that.
Well, great. We're just thankful that you're there, that can represent Wilderness and Wild and Scenic Rivers among the Forest Service leadership. And, you've got a great community here in the wilderness community to draw upon for any help and support that you need in your new role and with the agency's work for wilderness. So looking forward to working with you as we move forward. Thanks so much for coming on and being a part of our coffee hour and our workshop this week.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks.
All right. Okay, well, let's see. I think we're getting pretty close to the top of the hour. To give a short break, allow people to stretch their legs and get repositioned. We're going to close this meeting off, the coffee hour off, and we will be starting up the webinar portion of the workshop. You'll need to dial back in with the new link for that portion of the workshop in about 10 minutes at 12 o'clock Eastern time, 9 o'clock Pacific time, and everything in between. So we will catch everybody on the flip side. Thanks for coming this morning for the coffee hour. Remember to fill out that survey sometime during the rest of the couple of days of the workshop. Thank you.